One of the things I'd like to do with this series is port over some ideas from chess theory and bring them into the realm of curling. They won't always translate perfectly, but I definitely feel like there are some ideas that apply to both games, some of which might help you think about curling strategy in slightly different ways. Let's start with a simple one that you've probably considered yourself, especially if you've been skipping for some time. There's an important concept that can be applied to most turn-based games, including both chess and curling, known as the Null Move. This is basically a fancy way of talking about passing when it's your turn to move. It can be a critical tool to use when analyzing a position and deciding what action you want to take next. Here's how it works in chess. In this position, I'm playing black, and it's my turn to move. Before I think about what move I want to make, I'll first consider what would happen if I made a null move, if I passed and let my opponent go again. This isn't legal in chess, but we can still imagine what would happen if I just let my opponent move. In this case, white would checkmate me by playing queen takes f7, so obviously I'll need to do something to defend myself from that threat. That's often what players can get out of considering or imagining a null move: insight into what threats their opponents are making, whether they could come to fruition right away or a few moves down the line. This can reveal something that must immediately be dealt with, or show that the other side isn't threatening anything at all, allowing you to go on with making your own plans and threats. The null move works the same way in curling. If you're uncertain about what shot to call next, it's often helpful to consider what your opponent would do if you decided not to throw a rock at all. For instance, imagine this situation. You're leading by 2 in the final end of a game, and you have the hammer. Your second is about to throw their second rock, and you have 1 rock in the house. Some skips might consider guarding their rock, since it is a pretty good counter. But think about what would happen if you were to pass and let your opponent throw. Are you really concerned about the possibility of the other team hitting your rock? If they do, you can just hit back, getting you 1 step closer to clinching the win. In fact, it's very unlikely that any good skip would hit here. A center guard, or even a freeze, would be a better way to set up a chance to steal 2 later in the end. With that in mind, there's really no threat that your guard would be protecting against. In fact, it would actively hurt your goals. It gives the other team a place to hide, which is the last thing you need right now. Instead, you should seek to play a shot that furthers your goals and disrupts the plans of the other team. Honestly, the best option is probably peeling your own rock out of play, because anything in play is better than nothing for your opponents right now, and you don't even need to score a single point to win. It's also worth noting that unlike chess, curling does provide for a null move. Sort of. Yes, you physically have to throw all of your rocks, but you can purposely throw away a shot to make sure that you don't put anything new in play or otherwise change the situation. This is important, as in chess, the inability to pass is sometimes a problem. There's even a term, zugzwang, for this predicament. For instance, in this position, black would be able to draw if they could simply pass this one time. Either white would stalemate them, or they would move away from the pawn, allowing black to capture it. But because black is forced to move their king, white will be able to promote their pawn to a queen and go on to win the game. There are basically 3 types of situations in which passing can benefit you in curling. The most common one is asking your lead, or sometimes other players, to throw through with a big lead late in the game. This is an extremely defensive play, made with the knowledge that you won't need to score again to win, and that any rock in play will only benefit your opponent at this point. The second takes place late in any end, when a team decides, usually with their final rock and most commonly with the hammer, that they cannot do anything to improve the position for themselves, and throw their rock away rather than potentially making a mistake that helps the other team. Finally, the hammer team might throw through on their final rock in order to blank an end. Curling is truly a game where sometimes nothing is better than something. The next time you're confused or unsure about what to do in a given situation, try thinking about what the other team would do if you didn't throw at all. You might be surprised at how enlightening this simple exercise can be, and at how different the ice can look once you've given some consideration to your opponent's plans. Thanks for watching the video. If you've enjoyed it, please like and subscribe to the channel, where you'll find hours of additional discussion on curling strategy. If you're interested in supporting Chess on Ice, I'd also appreciate it if you'd take a look at our Patreon page, where you can chip in and exchange for a number of rewards, including early access to videos and other exclusive content. Thanks again, and as always, good curling.